Imagine a Kia and what springs to mind? It might be a compact city car perhaps, or even an ultra-efficient hatchback. I bet you don't think of this, the 365 brake horsepower V6 powered Kia Stinger GTS. Now it's a significant departure from the cars the South Korean manufacturer usually makes, but maybe it's just that sort of departure that it needs to prove that it can make interesting, exciting sports cars. You've got to admit that the Stinger looks good. It's not like anything else on the road today, and that's no bad thing. There are plenty of inlets to help it look as sporty as possible, while the imposing tiger nose front grille links it to other Kias in the range. It's a big car, there's no doubt about that, but it manages to hide its size well. The wraparound rear lights are a particular styling highlight too. Though the interior of the Stinger may not exhibit the flair that you'll find in rival cars, it's actually a really nice place to be. All the materials are of a good quality, and the Alcantara headliner makes it feel a little more luxurious than you'd expect. Now, the sloping roofline may make you think that those in the back are going to have their headroom restricted quite a lot, but in reality that's not the case. There's a lot of space back there, both in terms of headroom and legroom. Because it's got a hatchback style boot, practicality levels are pretty high for the Stinger. There's 406 litres of boot space to be found here, and though that's somewhat under the 480 litres you'll find in the Audi A5 Sportback, it's more than enough for a few weekend bags and plenty of shopping. You can of course lower the rear seats to extend the load area too. Now in this competitive four-door coupe, sports, whatever segment we want to call it, there are a lot of competitors to go between. You've got the BMW 4 Series Grand Coupe, you've got the Mercedes E-Class Coupe if you want to call it that one, and then you've got this Kia Stinger GTS. But what does the Kia need to do in order to fight it out against those rivals? It needs to be good to drive for one, it needs to be relatively fast, and it needs to actually ride quite well, because that's what these type of cars need to do. They need to ride well and they need to feel comfortable over longer journeys. Now, it does actually tick all three of those boxes. The V6 under the bonnet means that it is quite fast, the gearbox is nice and smooth and that makes it relaxing to drive, and the ride is comfortable, which is exactly what you want for a car like this. Now, as with many other sports cars on sale today, there is a drive mode selector in the centre of the Kia Stinger. Now this gives you 5 different drive modes, ranging from Smart, which adjusts the car settings to your style of driving, all the way up to Sport Plus, which is the hardest, firmest and most aggressive setting you can have. Now, all of the settings are decent enough. Comfort is the one we find ourselves coming back to the most often, and that's because it softens off the dampers and makes it far more comfortable on UK country roads like the ones we're on today. That said, move into Sport Plus mode and it really does sharpen things up. The engine becomes a lot more responsive, the whole ride firms up so you get a little less body roll, and all in all it just feels like a sharper, tighter package, and it actually makes quite a difference to the way the car drives, unlike in other models where it doesn't really seem to do very much at all. What about one of the key fundamentals of any sports car, the steering? How does the Stinger do in this department? It does very well actually. The steering is quite direct, it's relatively light, and as with most cars nowadays, there isn't a huge amount of feel. But it does allow you to place the car just as you want it, and the whole car, despite it being quite large, does tend to shrink around you, making you feel a little more agile on the road than you'd expect given the car's overall size. Now, the brakes are another point well worth mentioning. The Kia benefits from Brembo calipers on all 4 corners, and that elevates their performance slightly than the ones you'd usually find on a more run-of-the-mill car. It means that the car actually has quite a lot of braking performance and feels like there's quite a lot of bite at the top of the pedal, and this is just what you want when you're travelling a little bit quicker, which is what you'll be doing because of the added performance that V6 engine gives to the car as a whole. Now, Kia claims that the 3.3 litre V6 under the bonnet can push the Stinger from 0 to 60 miles an hour in just 4.7 seconds. It certainly feels brisk enough out on the road, and the 8-speed automatic gearbox that power is sent through is crisp to shift in manual mode and smooth in automatic. It's a little annoying, however, that you can't lock the gearbox in manual mode permanently. It'll revert back to full automatic if you don't use the paddles for a few seconds. You've really got to hand it to Kia. For its first attempt at a premium sports car, it's done things really rather well with the Stinger GTS. It's got a silky smooth engine, the gearbox shifts crisply, and overall, it's a really exciting car to drive. Now, if I was in the market for a premium 4-door coupe, then the Kia Stinger would definitely be on my radar.